This is Scheduling and Recall Recare Systems video part 1, and we're going to get into talking about the schedule. The schedule is something that every dental assistant struggles with, either as the chairside assistant working the schedule. It's something you're always probably going to complain about at some point in your career. And from an office management standpoint, it's not easy to maintain and to do. It takes some time for you to get comfortable being able to schedule appropriately, but once you have it down, it's really not that bad. It can be very intimidating at first, and a lot of students, especially as they're starting out, really get nervous when it comes to actually scheduling a patient, but it's really not that bad, and just embrace it and learn as much as you can from your office managers in the offices that you're going to be either externing in or working in. Because again, it's something that at some point you will be doing. I guarantee that you will either be scheduling appointments, you will be confirming appointments, so don't think that this is not an area that you're going to have to worry about even as a chairside assistant. So this is what the schedule looks like in EagleSoft. And what's nice about electronic scheduling systems is they're pretty user-friendly. So if you've worked with one system, it's very easy to make that transition to another software system like Dentrix or EasyDent. They're all pretty similar, just maybe different icons for different things. So speaking of icons, you notice that at the top on this bar, you have 2 rows of icons. And each of these icons pertains to a specific thing within the software system. And we're very easily able to maneuver between screens based on clicking on one of these icons. What's also nice about usually any software system is if you hover over an icon, if you're ever unsure what that icon means, if you hover over it for long enough, it's going to pop up with a description of what it is. Unfortunately, it's not doing it here because this is not actually EagleSoft. It's just a picture of EagleSoft, so we're not able to see what that looks like. But when you get in there with in your clinic classes, because you will be asked to confirm patients, you will be asked to check patients in, you will be scheduling patients and collecting payments from patients as well. So you'll have an opportunity to get in there and see what EagleSoft is all about, and to be able to use a lot of these icons here. Even as assistant, you'll be switching between some of these icons when it comes to doing your exams and things like that. So with the schedule, you notice that the day is set up in increments of 10 minutes, and 10 to 15 minute increments is usually pretty typical in an office. We used to run off of 15-minute increments, but most offices will either do either or. And when it comes to scheduling appointments, what's nice about our software is we can actually customize everything. So we can actually even customize our toolbar to put whatever icons we need or we want or we prefer to make it easier for us if we're managing that particular computer. And when we do our increments for times, we can actually preset, which I'll show you on the next screen what that kind of looks like, the time increments. So depending on the procedure and the length of the procedure, we can actually preset those and customize those to when we click on an appointment spot to schedule a patient. Depending on what we choose, it's going to schedule for that allotted time based on how we customized it. So 10-minute increments, also you may also refer to these as units, and each unit or each 10-minute increment basically stands for, the 10 minutes or the time. So if we're wanting to schedule a, let's say a 6-unit appointment, starting at 8 o'clock, that would be 1 unit, so that would be 10 minutes. Second unit would be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 60 minutes. So 60, I shouldn't say minutes, 60 units or 60 would be 60 minutes, I guess, is equal to an hour. And so 6 units, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, equals an hour's time. So that's very important for you to know, because when you do your scheduling assignment, you're going to be using units, and I want you to be able to convert those units to actual time in hours and minutes. So by knowing how to do that is going to be really, really important, depending on, again, what time increments that your office uses. So again, six units represents 60 minutes, and each 10-minute section is referring to a unit. So another thing we can do is these symbols up here. We can actually, if we click on these single arrows to the right and to the left, that's going to take us to our next day or our previous day. If we're using the double arrows on either end, that will take us to the beginning of the week, and this will take us to back to the beginning, so Monday. This would take us to the end of the week, which would be Friday, which is very helpful sometimes when we're either trying to locate an appointment for a patient or just trying to look ahead of time to see if maybe we have an appointment that's coming up within the next day or so. And then if we push on this circle here, that's going to take us to our current day, which is usually the day we're going to be working in, to be able to check patients in, to be able to check patients out. And also, if we're going to be confirming a patient, we might want to check this, click this one here, which will take us to our next day to allow us an opportunity to give those patients a call to confirm their appointments. So I have put a link down here. If you want to jump on and see what all of these different symbols mean, you can certainly do that. It's a good idea to get acquainted with whatever computer system your office uses, that you know how to use it properly. Also up here you have DWM. That takes you to the day. You can do a day at a time, which is the view that we're in now. So we're looking at today's day. If you go to week, it's going to pull up the whole entire week. And obviously, if you do month, it's going to kind of break it out into a month-long appointment. So depending on what you're trying to do, you can customize some of your views and kind of go between different views depending on what it is that you're doing. Off to the side here, you have a go to day. If you click on that tab, what it does is it opens up the calendar and allows you to be able to maybe jump ahead for 6 months or 8 months or a year's time. If, say, you want to schedule future appointments for your patients, you can always do that as well, rather than having to toggle or go through each and every single day using the arrows. That just makes it a little bit easier for you to be able to move to a particular day a lot quicker. Another thing that we can do when we open this up here is we can also customize to have a little box open up that allows us to put patients in kind of a waiting area. And let's say in the back you kind of pre-planned for a patient to come back in a week's time. What that does is it puts it into the queue. And once the office manager opens that up and takes a look, we can see everybody who's in that queue and get them scheduled for that appropriate time that was kind of predetermined for them from the assistant or from the hygienist. And if that time doesn't work, then we're able to quickly search out and find maybe some upcoming appointments for that particular time slot that the patient is wanting or needing. So definitely very convenient when it comes to our software system. This next slide shows a populated schedule. And you'll notice that the schedule is color-coded, and it's done that way for a reason. So within EagleSoft, we're able to actually customize each appointment to be color-coded with a specific color to identify very quickly what that procedure is pertaining to. So as you can see, we can actually change these colors if we want to any colors that we choose to do, and we can customize our schedule in that manner. Some actually do not by appointment type, but they may do it by provider type. So they might color code each provider in their office with a different color, so that when a patient is getting ready to be scheduled, we know based on the color that that is Dr. Smith's patient, or that that patient belongs to Dr. Jones, making it a little bit easier for us to schedule. I do also want to point out these slashes here and these X's that you see. I have not had an opportunity to play around a lot with Eaglesoft. I'm a Dentrix person. To me, I've worked with Dentrix pretty much my whole career, so it's definitely much easier. But what these slashes and X's mean is doctor time and assistant time. Your slashes are referring to assistant time, and your X's are referring to doctor time. And that just allows us to be able to maybe stagger patients a little bit more, rather than maybe scheduling each patient on the hour. Depending on if we're seeing a slash or an X, we can then put, as you can see here, these are all assistants, this is all doctor, so we're able to put this patient into operatory 2, because while the assistant is doing these prophies, and these are child prophies, then the doctor can be easily working in this operatory, possibly with a third assistant, and not have it interfere with anything. So we're able to kind of schedule kind of a where it's side-by-side appointment to be able to do that, and that's very, very convenient. Same thing here, this is all doctor's column, these are all assistants that you can see off to the side here, possibly with the exception of this one, which could possibly be a hygiene or a hygienist that's doing that one, who would be considered more of a provider. So again, very, very convenient. The schedule is not sometimes an easy thing to have to do, as you will find out in your assignment, but it's definitely something that as an office manager is your role and responsibility to be able to maintain that. Another thing we're able to do is we're able to create blocks, as in down here with the lunch. We can also create blocks throughout our schedule to maybe block off time if we're having a staff meeting, or if the dentist is going to be going to a maybe they're doing meeting with somebody. We want to make sure that we block off that time so that nothing gets scheduled accidentally in there. So that's something we can easily do within our software system. Your book talks about buffer time, and buffer time, some offices use it, some offices don't, and that's just basically putting in maybe a 10 or 15 minute appointment in there, kind of acts as a buffer to allow you to kind of get your room broken down, get it sterilized or get it disinfected, sterilize your instruments, set up the room, and be ready for the next patient. So some offices will actually use buffer time to allow assistants time to be able to get their room cleaned up and ready for the next patient if need be. Your book also has some great pictures on what Eaglesoft looks like, so I advise you to please look through that and take a look. Emergency patients, we usually try to see emergency patients same day if we can. And that's usually something that, you know, if you're ever unsure about scheduling an emergency patient, I always ask the assistants, because as the assistant, you know your schedule and you know the best spot to be able to put an emergency patient. When it comes to scheduling younger patients or older patients, just be mindful of their schedules. Some older patients prefer maybe a late morning appointment, early afternoon appointment. And kiddos, you definitely want to try to schedule probably more in the morning, mid-morning, because usually in the afternoons is when they're taking their naps. Managing prime appointments. Prime appointments are going to be those appointments that go very fast. It's going to be your 3 o'clocks, your 4 o'clocks, depending on how late your office is open. Those appointments tend to go very quickly. It's just a more convenient time for people if they're working to be able to take some time off towards the end of the day. So you definitely want to make sure that you're reserving those prime appointments for patients that you know are going to show up and be on time. Habitually late patients, usually there's a policy on how you handle those. Sometimes doctors will still choose to see the patient, assuming they're within the 15-minute they're there within 15 minutes after their appointment time. Usually if they're there later on, doctor will choose probably to reschedule, and it's going to depend on the appointment as well. No-shows, broken appointments, again, all wreak havoc on your schedule, and nothing you can really do about those. That's a quick overview